Yeah, that's right, boys. I don't just collect the Hammond collection. I also collect really expensive yet scientifically accurate dinosaur figures as well. Yes, I have lost my voice recently, and I am currently recovering from a mystery illness, I believe. What's up, you guys? So today we're going to be doing a tour review on the Beasts in the Mesozoic Raptor Series 1/18th scale Deinonychus Antirrhopus. Now, I don't know if it's exactly Raptor series. There's no real series anymore. This figure was created by Creative Beast Studio, which is the team behind the articulated, scientifically accurate dinosaurs. They released a line of 1/6 scale raptors, then eventually 1/18 scale ceratopsians, and then 1/18 scale tyrannosaurs. And now they just make random dinosaurs, which I do really like. So now we're not constrained to just one series of dinosaurs. But yeah, this is one of their relatively recent releases. I think this figure released back in like 2023 or 24, I believe, or maybe 25. I don't really remember exactly when this figure released. But anyways, this is probably my favorite figure from the line. Now that isn't to say that this figure is perfect by any means, because there are some flaws which I will get into in a bit. But anyways, before we get into the meat of the video, let's take a look at some of the stuff that it comes with, shall we? So, I unfortunately don't have the box with me because I am no longer keeping my boxes because, well, I don't necessarily have any usage for them. But what I do have is the collector card, which I don't really care too much about this, but and as you can see from the glare, it's not necessarily in the best condition. So, I am sorry, collector card people, but I'm also not sorry at the same time. Anyway, so here we have the art, which was done by Gabriel Ugueto. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. But anyways, as we can see, here's the Deinonychus chowing down on a fluky boy. I don't know what it is. It's probably some sort of early bird or something. Anyways, here is the back of the card. It's number, I believe that's number 4 up there. Hang on. Yeah, it says number 4. Anyways, so here we have Deinonychus Antirrhopus, aka Terrible Claw. It was 3.4 meters long, or 11 feet long, weighed 70 kilograms, or 155 pounds, and it was located in the Clovery and Antlers formations in USA. I think it was also found in Montana, unless that is in Montana. I don't know where this place is geographically. But anyways, it lived between 115 to 108 million years ago in the early Cretaceous period, and it was named by John Ostrom back in 1969. Nice. Anyways, due to its bird-like anatomy and close relationship with other feathered dromaeosaurs such as Velociraptor and Microraptor, Deinonychus is considered to also have been covered in feathers. This ornithopod Tenontosaurus was likely a common victim of Deinonychus, Terrible Claw. Yeah, so then why the heck did he not add a Tenontosaurus? So, that's nice. Hopefully they do make a Tenontosaurus eventually to accompany this figure. Although, I don't know when, if they're even going to. But anyways, before we get into the figure itself, we're gonna take a look at some of the feet that it comes with. So it comes with some walking feet, and it also comes with some off the ground feet. Oh. And yeah, the feet are pretty tiny on this figure. And yeah, that's really about it for that. And it also comes with a little rod that you can prop the Deinonychus on. Mine is a bit finicky, and for whatever reason, the slightest rotation causes the clip to pop off. I don't know why, but I mean, it does. Maybe the peg is a bit too big. I don't know, honestly. But anyways, let's get into the actual meat of the video. Now, this figure is very well crafted, and honestly, it's impressive to say the least. I mean, they have compacted all this articulation onto this figure, And it's barely smaller than a Hammond collection figure. In fact, it is smaller than a Hammond collection figure. And, in fact, there is the mini Pentaceratops in comparison to this figure. And while we're on the topic of minis, here it is compared to a box of Jurassic World minis. Yeah, can you quit yapping and get back into the video, please? I did not expect a ricochet. So, yeah, this figure is really nice. Before we get into the positives, there are a couple of cons with this figure, one of which isn't necessarily too bad. Well, honestly, they're not really too bad, but they're still sort of like, one of them is just like a personal ick to me. And it is the feet. Now, I understand, this figure is meant to be scientifically accurate, so the proportions can't be very goofy. And in turn, they have to do something with the feet, otherwise it'll be very, very finicky and difficult to manage. But and thus the foot is on a ball joint, and you know, it makes sense because it does come with interchangeable feet, as we have previously established. But I don't necessarily like it too much because, okay, mine's not doing it now, but the feet have popped off several times before. Just trust me on that. And funnily enough, the feet is just about the same thickness as a 1/18 scale raptor. Maybe the 1/18 scale raptor's knees are a bit bigger, but, you know, basically the same thing. But anyways, yeah, another thing that might set some people off, especially people with OCD, maybe, is the lack of skewness that is in the arm joints. As you can see, the arm joints do not align, and they are very much askew. And it's not. And honestly, I don't really notice it, but this probably would be a big issue if someone has like OCD or some other condition, or if they just like prefer to have their figures neat and in an orderly fashion. And also yeah, let's get into some of the pros. Now, the legs on this figure actually work very well. And I say that because a lot of other BOTM figures have a similar leg joint system, where there's just one ball joint connecting the thighs to the animal. And usually it doesn't really work too well. They're kind of like stuck-ish. Like, for example, on the Proceratops Helenicorhinus. As you can see, it has recoil, and it's just very nerve-wracking whenever you're posing a figure, because if there's recoil in your joints, that could potentially mean that it's breaking. And I don't like that, Sam I am. But thankfully, my figure doesn't have any of that weird joint recoil. However, the mouth is kind of hit or miss. The inside of the mouth is purple, and hang on, and the teeth are painted really nice. I'm honestly astonished that they managed to paint the teeth as well. My bad. But the purple mouth, I'm not really too big of a fan of it. And, you know, I understand that some animals don't just have pink mouths. But still, it's a bit, very much hit or miss for me. But overall, I really do love the paint scheme on this figure. And it's just very nice. Now, the whole figure is made out of a softer plastic. Not soft enough to be rubber, but at the same time, not too hard. So the figure definitely has some very dynamic crunching whenever it poses. And speaking of which, why don't we get into the articulation now, shall we? So as we just saw earlier, the mouth can open. It can actually open kind of wide, about that wide actually. And it can also close. The head can move up and down and look left and right, and can even rotate a full 360 actually. The neck can move up and down and left and right, and This one can't really rotate a full 360, probably because the area is a bit more narrow. But yeah, the arms can rotate a full 360 and spread from the body, and the elbows and wrists move up and down. And this is another con I have. Now, yes, obviously there has to be a limit with the feathers, otherwise it's gonna look kind of weird. But I don't really like how it looks, because you can't like make its hands go into its wings entirely. But I understand that there are some limits and constraints with these figures. Otherwise, there would just be no feathers here if that were the case. So I don't really think about it too often. Anyways, the torso can move left and right, and it can also move up and down. Let's get the wings out of the way. The legs can spread from the body and can also rotate a full 360. Although I don't know if I would recommend doing that. Now it's happening. The foot popped off of. Yeah. The knees can move up and down and rotate full 360, and so can the ankles. Oh, there we go again. And as mentioned before, the foot is on a ball joint. And speaking of ball joints, the tail is also on a ball joint. And there is a wire inside the tail, so you can bend it around a bunch. And so, yeah, this figure is pretty nice, and it is still available. However, it is $40. Bro, what? Yeah, I did mention early on in this video that these were expensive but scientifically accurate figures. Yeah, you see, the difference between these figures and Mattel figures is that these figures are not made by multi-billion-dollar corporations. They are indeed made by a small team of collectible creators, or whatever you call them. And as such, these figures can't be mass-produced like the Hammock collection. And in turn, since these figures take a lot of time to make and also need to go through a design process, they in turn become very expensive. And unfortunately, the recent wave has seen a price increase on their figures due to the tariffs in America from the tariff war era. So yeah, that stinks. Even with all that, though, I would still highly recommend getting this figure. Like, if you have the money for it, then definitely get it. And definitely take advantage of any sort of sales that they have. And exclusively just get this figure. Don't get any of the other figures. Just get the BOTM Deinonychus. But, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, and goodbye.